Well, earlier this week, we found that through Donald Trump's demands for larger relief checks to Americans, the House overwhelmingly passed a standalone bill that would do just that. Then that bill went to the Senate, where Mitch McConnell played all sorts of games, but Senator Bernie Sanders had a plan. He knew that Mitch McConnell wanted to pass a veto-proof vote on funding the military, the Pentagon. And so he promised to essentially reject that through unanimous consent, unless there was a floor vote on the $2,000 direct checks to Americans. As David Sirota and Aaron Perez write in the Daily Poster, Senator Bernie Sanders followed through on his promise to deny unanimous consent for the Senate to advance a $740 billion defense authorization bill until Mitch McConnell allows an up or down vote on $2,000 survival checks to individuals making less than $75,000 and couples making less than $150,000. So clearly those checks would be means tested, which is important to keep in mind because the talking point that we heard from Republicans over and over again was that Democrats were trying to send these massive checks to people who are already wealthy. Of course, that's not true. And the Daily Poster continues to say that Sanders's move forced McConnell to ask the Senate to pass a formal motion to proceed on the defense bill, which would let Republicans move forward on the Pentagon priority without a vote on the $2,000 checks. Now, what ended up happening? Well, we'll get to that in just a second. But first, I think it's important for you guys to see the argument that Bernie Sanders was making on the Senate floor yesterday, and he did so using Donald Trump's tweet. Let's watch.
So even on this issue, amazingly enough, the president of the United States is right. So what all of this comes down to, my fellow Americans, is not even whether you agree with Senator Schumer and myself and 78% of the American people, or you agree with Senator McConnell, and I suspect Senator Toomey, that's fine. It's called democracy. We have differences of opinion. All that I am asking is give us a vote. What's the problem? Allow the United States senators to cast the vote as to whether or not they are for the $2,000 check or whether they're against it. We will need, as I understand it, 60 votes to win. That's a big hurdle. I don't know that we're going to win. There are a number of Republicans, to their credit, who have said they're ready to vote for it. I suspect there may be more when given the opportunity who will vote for it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we will lose. I think that would be unfortunate. But all that I am asking for right now is give us the opportunity to vote. What is the problem with that?
So there's Bernie Sanders fighting for a vote on the direct relief checks to Americans. And as the Daily Poster continues to write, as Republicans saber rattled about the need to pass the defense bill, 41, that's right, 41 Democrats obediently voted with McConnell, allowing him to move the defense bill forward without a vote on the checks. That included yes votes from Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who claimed that he was gonna fight for those direct checks, by the way, and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, who just earlier was promoting the direct checks to Americans. But Cenk, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because there was a lot of talk coming from Democratic lawmakers, especially Democratic leadership like Chuck Schumer, and they didn't deliver.
Yeah, so this is a near perfect case of how politics works in America. So I really need you to understand this and absorb it. So Sirota did a brilliant job in pointing it out, and everything in there is absolute fact. It's inarguable by anyone in the mainstream media. Yet, of course, they either are silent or part of this plot, as we'll explain later in the program. So first thing you have to understand is what Bernie Sanders is doing is saying the defense bill you're all saying is a must pass. I can block it. In fact, if others join me, we can block it together until we get a standalone vote. Now, McConnell's plan is to not have you vote on the $2,000 check by itself. He wants to include provisions that he knows Democrats and Republicans are against, so it has no chance of passing. So Bernie Sanders says, no, give it to me by itself. Now, Democratic leaders pretend that they're in favor of voting on this by itself. Now, if they block the defense bill, not permanently, but for some time until they got that vote, they could actually get the vote. That's it. They could definitely get a standalone vote on $2,000 checks if they block the defense bill. And this is amazing. 5 Republicans voted with Bernie Sanders. So with the 5 Republicans, they can definitely block the defense bill until they get a standalone vote. And Democrats, knowing that they could win, surrender. Because as I told you throughout the week, the Democratic leadership does not actually want to pass the $2,000 checks. In fact, I had a slight disagreement with David Dayen from the American Prospect about this. He's a great reporter, and he just said, look, I'm looking at the facts, and Pelosi passed it, and Schumer and Durbin say they're for it. And so far, they've fought in some ways. Now, to be fair to David, don't get me wrong, they had not yet done this vote. So now with this vote, it's absolutely confirmed. No, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, and certainly all the corporate Democrats in the Senate, which is almost all of them, 41 of them, all did not actually want you to get the $2,000 checks because they actually had, this is not symbolic. It's not we're yelling and screaming for no purpose. No, they could have actually blocked the vote or forced the vote, if you will, to actually get the $2,000 checks. And they refused to do it. So I want to explain who the good guys and bad guys are. So we explained a little bit of the bad guys. I'll come back to them in a second. The good guys, though, I want to be clear about. Bernie Sanders, great. Jeff Merkley, we've told you he's one of the top progressives. Great to see him there on that list. So Ed Markey, great. Elizabeth Warren, there you go. Thank you, great. Okay, and progressives helped Ed Markey win in Massachusetts. He's totally on our side. Ron Wyden, these are all the people I told you are the most progressive people in the Senate, and they proved it with this vote. I was curious about Chris Van Hollen. I did not expect him on that list. So good job by Chris Van Hollen for being on the list. So that's great. Okay, so give credit to the good guys. Now the bad guys, Schumer. All pretending that he's a big progressive now because he thinks AOC might run for his seat in New York. And the minute there's an opportunity to actually prove it, he's like, oh, no, I don't want actual Americans getting money. Don't be ridiculous. My corporate donors already got the money. Why would I give it to them? I'm just huffing and puffing. So now you know who Chuck Schumer is. And I mean, we always knew, but the media always, no, I don't know, man. Maybe, no, it looks like he's for the 2000. Oh, I'm not gonna report on the one case he could have actually gotten the $2,000 checks. Shh. So, and then Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, look, dude, this gives you a sense of how hypocritical politicians are. Kamala Harris was the sponsor of the original legislation for the $2,000 checks. But
in fact, Cenk, she made a pretty strong case for voting in favor of the $2,000 checks just recently. And I wanted to go to that video before you continue making your point about her, because I think you're right in that, she might want to be associated with policy that is wildly popular, but when push comes to shove, when you have the possibility of actually passing it, all of a sudden, she'll fold. So let's take a look at what she had to say just recently about passing those direct checks to Americans.
On the stimulus check, Chuck Schumer is calling to increase it to $2,000 with unanimous consent today. It may not pass. Mitch McConnell is holding it up. What say you, Vice President?
Well, I actually have a bill for that. Where a while back, I recommended that folks receive a $2,000 check. And so I would urge Mitch McConnell to put my bill on the floor for a vote.
I mean, she has a bill for that, but she won't fight. She won't fight to get that bill on the floor for a vote.
So look, I call politicians like Kamala Harris fake, and the mainstream Democrats and mainstream media lose their minds. That is our beloved Kamala Harris. You're not allowed to say that. And I'll use identity politics against you to make sure that you are banned from ever saying that. Well, it's a sad day for you. I just said it. She's totally fake, and this vote totally proved it. It's my bill. I urged Mitch. Oh, you urged him. Oh my God, what a great thing. You know politics really well. Urging Mitch McConnell usually works. On the other hand, Bernie Sanders was actually making him vote on it until you came in and said, no. We're protecting Mitch McConnell today. We're urging him not to vote. Everybody bow your heads to Mitch McConnell because the Biden administration has decided you don't really need those $2,000 checks. We were just playing politics. So, and by the way, look, reasonable, strategic progressives, unfortunately, are caught in the middle of everything. Mainstream media going, I don't know how politics works. They could have forced a vote? Oh, I didn't know that. I'm not gonna tell my audience, I'm not gonna tell my readers. And then you have some folks on the theoretical left who go, no, let's attack Bernie Sanders. Let's attack all progressives who are actually being strategic and can force votes that actually can win. No, it is not good enough. My God, have some sense. So here's a vote we could have actually forced, and it could have actually helped. Yet, outside of Sirota and us and a couple other people, I don't see anybody doing the right work on this. And of course, most importantly, the senators who actually voted the right way.
Yeah, I mean, that final point is a killer. I mean, this was an incredibly important moment on something that's wildly popular in the country. People are desperate for real economic relief. There's a reason why these checks are being referred to as survival checks. And if ever there was a moment to force the vote on anything that could actually be successful, it was this moment, it was this issue. And I mean, the whole thought is, well, if we have all of these, members of Congress, if we have these senators, in this case, on the record, essentially voting in a way procedurally that works against the direct checks, well, there'd be a groundswell, right? People would be so up in arms and so angry that something would change, but that's not what's happening because Congress is not afraid of the left because we're not organized, we don't have power, and anyone who's bringing up that issue right now gets torn apart as some sort of defeatist or some, so-called lib that doesn't want to get anything done. But you have to be strategic and you need to look at power structures and you need to find ways to accumulate enough power to flex that muscle. We don't have it, clearly, because they're openly voting against us and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say one more thing. But to the progressives in the Senate who are doing the right thing, we deeply appreciate it because we can see you're fighting on the right side and you didn't just vote the right way. Bernie Sanders led this fight. Anyone criticizing Bernie Sanders is not progressive enough is an obvious fool and should be dismissed immediately. The guy's been fighting for us better than anyone for 40 years. If you can't see that, no, nobody's that stupid. No, you're trying not to see it for whatever reason and of your own, okay? So, but the rest of us, let's go. But even to the Bernie Sanders of the world. And as you can tell, I support him because of his actions. His actions are correct. But guys, at some point, one of those Democrats, you do have to speak up and go, I wonder why Kamala Harris didn't vote yes on this. I wonder why Chuck Schumer didn't vote yes on this. And those senators have more power than us. So if one of those senators, Elizabeth Warren or any of them, again, these are the good guys, got up and said, it's curious that the rest of the Democratic Party didn't act when we could have gotten them the $2,000 checks. Well, then that would make it a media issue and then the media would swarm. Of course, journalists being journalists is unimaginable. If they told the American people, hey, the Democrats could have gotten you the $2,000 check, then they chose not to, there would have been a giant uprising. But they told everybody, shh, don't listen to Bernie, don't listen to Bernie. There's nothing you can do, everybody go back to sleep. I don't want you to actually get those checks. Because all of us on cable news, we're already got our checks. We're incredibly rich, we all got our checks. We're all good, and we don't want you to get those checks because we want to save the money for the next time we need a couple of $1 trillion.